يوم فطركم من صيامكم والآخر يوم تأكلون من لحوم نسككم. قال ثم شهدت العيد مع عثمان بن عفان فصلى ثم انصرف فخطب فقال إنه قد اجتمع لكم في يومكم هذا عيدان، أي جمعة and عيد، فمن أحب من أهل العالية أن ينتظر الجمعة فلينتظرها، ومن أحب أن يرجع فليرجع، فقد أذنت له. فقال ثم شهدت العيد مع علي وعثمان محصور فصلى ثم انصرف فخطب. Malik informed us from Az-Zuhri, who informed us from Abu Ubaidillah, the freed slave of Abdurrahman, that he said, I attended Eid with Umar al-Khattab and he prayed, finished his prayer, then gave the khutbah, i.e. obviously the khutbah comes on Eid, comes after the prayer. He said these 2 days on which the Prophet are the 2 days on which the Prophet forbade fasting. The day of your breaking your fast, i.e. Eid al-Fitr, and the other day being the day when you eat the meat of your of your slaughter, meaning Eid al-Adha. Abu Ubaidah said, then I attended the Eid with Uthman ibn Affan and he prayed, concluded and gave the khutbah saying, two Eids have come together. Two Eids have come in this day of yours, i.e. Jum'ah and Eid. Whoever of the dwellers of Al-Aliyah, far away, for whom it would be very difficult to attend Jum'ah, want to wait for Jum'ah, let him wait for it. Whoever wants to go back, then let him go back, for I have given him leave. Right? And so um, so when Eid is on Jum'ah, you have to pray Jum'ah. The issue is that these people who are far away, they have an excuse. So they've come, maybe thinking they don't have an excuse, okay? And then it's hard for them to stay. If they were to stay, it's for a long time, then it's excused, right? But otherwise, Jum'ah is obligatory and it's fard, right? And Eid is wajib or sunnah, and so it doesn't take its place, right? So I don't know who said otherwise. You hear some modern people saying things otherwise, but I don't know if it's how. It's not one of the form of that anyway. Whoever wants to go back, let him go up, for I have given him lead. Isn't this interesting? So what does that mean? I have given him leave. So we see these inklings, these suggestions here and there of the role of the ruler in worship. The Hanafis, they say, Jummah doesn't count without the permission of the Imam. The Hanafis, they say, joining on Mecca, joining on Arafah, right, and Muzdalifah, this is done with the Amir al-Hajj, the person that the ruler puts in charge of the Hajj. So there is an idea that there is a political role in worship. You can join prayers with the political leader. We saw before Ibn Umar, he used to, when the rulers used to join, the governors of Medina used to join in the rain, he would join with them, right? It's almost like they give the permission to do it. Okay? Here, similarly, he says, I give him lead. It's not so, a mufti does not give leave to somebody. He tells you the hukam. But here it's like the sense like you don't have to be here. So why would you have to be here? Because Jum'ah was seen in their eyes as a political thing. And you have to be there. Many of the corrupt Umayyad rulers would use Jum'ah as a political thing. They would be there giving khutbahs for a long time, talking on a rant about their own thing, and they would not let people pray. And sometimes people would miss the prayer. Some of the Salaf would have to pray in hiding, in a sneaky way while the khutbah was going. So we have to understand that there is that for the Shafis, generally speaking, there's no don't need a permission from the ruler to have Jummah. You don't, in the rule is fairly limited in terms of ibadat. But you see, this is an inkling here. The phrase, I have given him permission. Right? It's not like I've given him a fatwa that you're excused. It's that I personally, as the ruler, have allowed you not to attend Jummah. It's almost like Jum'ah is like a military summons, like you have to be here, right? It's interesting, right? He went on and said, then I attended Eid with Sayyidina Ali when Uthman was besieged and he prayed. Then he concluded and gave the khutbah. So the point is the khutbah comes afterwards. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this is a gap here. Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, born in the year 50-51. So there's a gap here, right, of at least one or two narrators. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي يوم الفطر ويوم الأضحى قبل الخطبة. وذكر أن أبا بكر وعمر كانوا يصنعان ذلك. Right? And so he says, Malik informed us from Ibn Shihab, from somebody, probably from somebody else, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray on the days of Fitr and Adha before the khutbah, right? Opposite of Jum'ah. He mentioned, I have a guest. He mentioned that Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar used to do that too. قال محمد وبهذا كله نأخذ إنما رخص عثمان في الجمعة لأهل العالية لأنهم ليسوا من أهل مصر وهو قول أبو حنيفة because they're not from the city to begin with. They're not residents of the city, they're not obliged to come anyway. Right? As opposed to when Jum'ah falls on when there's a dispensation when it's Jum'ah, you don't have to pray Jum'ah. Right? Now something else confuses it, right? Something else makes it confusing. The position of the Jumhur is that Eid prayer is a certain time and Jum'ah time is another time, right? So Eid you pray in the morning and Jum'ah you pray in the afternoon. Now the position of the Hanbalis is different. The position of the Hanbalis is that the Jum'ah time is the same as Eid time. Okay? So that's going to make the whole discussion even more confusing. So when somebody says, for example, you don't have to do Jum'ah, and we're just going to do Eid instead, maybe they're actually going to do Jum'ah as an Eid. Does that make sense? So when you're looking at these discussions or the hadith to do with it, you have to understand, well, hang on a minute, what are you actually referring to? It's like the discussion of the Prophet ﷺ praying tahajjud in Ramadan. So did he only ever pray 8 rakats of tahajjud, or did he only ever pray 8 rakats of tarawih? It's like, oh, good point. Like, what are you referring to when you say he only ever prayed this number of rakats? Like, as what? So it's important to understand that as well. Okay. باب صلاة التطوع قبل العيد أو بعده. Voluntary prayers before and after the Eid. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع عن ابن عمر أنه كان لا يصلي يوم الفطر قبل الصلاة ولا بعدها. So Malik informed us from Nafi' on the day of Fitr that Ibn Umar would neither pray before or after it. So there's no particular sunnahs after it anyway. Right? Before there'd be like Tahiyyat al-Masjid, and for the Imam he would just come in and right. So there's no particular sunnahs before and after the Eid prayer. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا عبد الرحمن ابن قاسم ابن محمد ابن أبي بكر right عن أبيه أنه كان يصلي قبل أن يغدو 4 ركعات. So Abdul Rahman ibn Qasim informed us from his father, Qasim Muhammad, the student of Aisha, that before going out, right, leaving his house, he would pray 4 rakats before, right? Not there. قال محمد لا صلاة قبل صلاة العيد فأما بعدها فإن شئت فصليت وإن شئت فلم تصلي وقول أبي حنيفة رحمه الله. So that illa, all the wisdom there would be that, it's a distraction. The khutbah may start at any moment. Just wait for the prayer. So Imam Muhammad says there is no praying before the prayer of the Eid. As for after it, it is up to whether you pray, whether you pray or not afterwards. That is the verdict of Imam Hanifa, right? That there's no prayer before it. باب القراءة في صلاة العيدين. أخبرنا مالك حدثنا ضمرة بن سعيد المازني عن عبيد الله بن عبد الله بن عتبة أن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه سأل أبا واقد الليثية ماذا كان يقرأ به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأضحى والفطر، فقال كان يقرأ بقاف قرآن المجيد، آه واقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. Right, so with the chain transmission, it says Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Utbah said that Umar al-Khattab asked Abu Waqid al-Laythi what would the Prophet recite in Adha. He said he would recite Qaf and uh, which surah is this? اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر is there's a number there anyway. So these are surahs that he would recite in Eid. And there's other surahs as well. So it's Bab at-Takbir fil Eidain. Saying Allahu Akbar in the Eid prayer. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع قال شهدت الأضحى والفطر مع أبي هريرة فكبر في الأولى 7 تكبيرات قبل القراءة وفي الآخرة ب5 تكبيرات قبل القراءة. Um, so Imam Malik informed us from Nafi'. He told us, he said, I attended Adha and Fitr with Abu Huraira as the Imam, and he said Allahu Akbar 7 times in the first rak'ah before reciting, and then 5 times in the second rak'ah before reciting. Right? Um, and I believe this is the Hanif. This is what we do in the Shafi school. قال محمد قد اختلف الناس في التكبير في العيدين فما أخذت به فهو حسن وأفضل ذلك عندنا ما روي عن ابن مسعود أنه كان يكبر في كل عيد 9 5 و4 فيهن تكبيرة الافتتاح تكبيرتا الركوع ويوالي بين القراءتين يؤخرها في الأولى ويقدمها في الثانية وهو قول أبي حنيفة. Right? So he said basically different athar from the Sahaba. So Imam Muhammad said people have differed concerning the saying of Allahu Akbar on the Eids. Whatever you choose is this fine. Right? There's no clear thing. The best of it, in our opinion, is that which is real from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Right? Because he's one of the greatest fuqaha of the Sahaba, and well established that this is what the people of Kufa did. That he would pronounce Allahu Akbar in every Eid 9 times. 5 and 4, including in them takbir at the beginning of the prayer. So say Allahu Akbar to begin the prayer, and Allahu Akbar to go into ruku'. So then that makes 3 left. Okay, and then in the second one it would be 3 as well. So 3 and 3. He would make the 2 recitals close to each other, placing it in the last rak'ah, placing it last in the first rak'ah, and the first in the second rak'ah. Those are the other way around. He did it the other way around.
Yeah, today we do it the other way around, I think.
Um, yeah, I remember it's the other way around. He would make placing it last in the first rak'ah. So that would mean it doesn't sound right. I remember the opposite. If you remember the opposite, let's just check 1 second. For those listening to the recording, we just looked in Hash Tahtawi, and it mentions that you delay both of them. The Hanafi schools that you delay both of them. Right? So not that you delay the first and there's not the second. That was in Hash Tahtawi. Okay. Okay. باب قيام شهر رمضان وما فيه من الفضل. Standing for prayer in the month of Ramadan. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن عروة بن الزبير عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى في المسجد صلى بصلاته ناس ثم كثروا. Right? كثورا means to become many. أصبحوا كثيرا. um, ثم كثروا من القابلة ثم اجتمعوا الليلة الثانية أو الرابعة فكثروا فلم يخرج إليهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فلما أصبح قال قد رأيت الذي قد صنعتم البارحة فلم يمنعني أن أخرج إليكم إلا أني خشيت أن يفرض عليكم وذلك في رمضان. So Malik informed us that Ibn Shihab informed us from Urwa and Zubair from Aisha that the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam prayed in the masjid and some people prayed with him. Then on the night that the next night they had grown more. Then they gathered on the third or fourth night and they had grown even more. But the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not go out to them. When morning came, he said, I saw what you did yesterday and it was good, right? And nothing prevented me from coming out except what? For fear that would be made obligatory for you. I.e., so praying in a group prayer in Ramadan is recommended, but I just didn't do it with you because I wasn't as concerned it become obligatory. And that's the position of most scholars. Some scholars, like Imam Shafi in one of his positions, Imam Malik, I believe, in other positions, they say it's recommended to pray by yourself if you're a hafid, etc. Right? But otherwise, generally speaking, it's recommended to pray in a group prayer. أخبرنا مالك حدثنا سعيد المقبوري عن أبي سلمة بن عبد الرحمن أنه سأل عائشة كيف كانت صلاة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في رمضان. قالت ما كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يزيد في رمضان ولا غيره على 11 ركعة يصلي 4 فلا تسأل عن حسنهن وطولهن ثم يصلي 4 فلا تسأل عن حسنهن وطولهن ثم يصلي 3. قالت فقلت يا رسول الله أتنام قبل أن توتر؟ قال يا عائشة عيناي تنامان ولا ينام قلبي. So Malik narrates from Sa'id ibn Sa'id al-Maqburi, who narrated from Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Auf that he asked Aisha radiallahu anha, how was the Prophet's prayer in Ramadan? She said the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not pray more than 11 rakahs, either in Ramadan or any other Ramadan. He would pray 4 rakahs, and do not ask about their distinction and length, right? How beautiful they were. Don't ask about how distinct they were and how beautiful they were, and how long he prayed for. And do not ask for the distinction length. And he would then pray another 4, and then he prayed 3. She said, so I asked, O Messenger of Allah, do you sleep before you perform witr? He answered, Aisha, my eyes sleep, but my heart does not sleep. I.e., I sleep, it doesn't break my wudu. So this is a proof then for people like, I don't know who, Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi. Right, so Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi, the great Qadi of Qurtuba, he said Taraweeh is 8 rakats. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he said it's not any fixed number. He said it's basically what people can do. So you look at the situation. Ibn Humam of the Hanafis, he said the idea that 20 rakats is sunnah mu'akkada is wrong because the Prophet didn't pray 20 rakats. So therefore, you just the 8 rakats is sunnah mu'akkada and everything else is sunnah, right? But otherwise, form of madhahib to say 20 rak'ahs, right? Why? Because that's what we find the majority of the Salaf doing. Majority of Salaf prayed 20, 30, 40 rak'ahs. That's how they used to do things. So generally speaking, whatever the majority of the Salaf did, that's what you find the form of madhahib following. أم، أخبرنا
Right.
مالك حدثنا الزهري عن أبي سلمة عن عبد الرحمن بن عوف أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يراغب الناس في قيام رمضان من غير أن يأمرهم بعزيمة فيقول من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا وغفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه قال ابن شهاب توفي رسول الله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والأمر على ذلك ثم كان الأمر في خلافة أبي بكر وصدرا من خلافة عمر على ذلك. Um, so the Prophet ﷺ used to encourage people to stand in prayer in Ramadan without making it an obligatory command, saying, whoever stands in prayer for the month of Ramadan out of conviction and deliberation, um, ihtisab is to seek a reward, right? Not deliberation, seeking a reward, will be forgiven whatever wrong actions he has committed. Ibn Shihab said, so the soul of the Prophet ﷺ was taken, leaving the matter as it stood, and the matter remained like that until the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr and the beginning of the Khilafah of Umar. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن عروة بن الزبير عن عبد الرحمن بن عبد القاري أنه خرج مع عمر بن الخطاب ليلة في رمضان فإذا الناس أوزاع متفرقون يصلي الرجل يعني آم، واحد من الرجال فيصلي بصلاته الرهط يعني جماعة فقال عمر والله إني لأظنني لو جمعت هؤلاء على قارئ واحد لكان أمثل ويبقى أفضل ثم عزم فجمعهم على أبي بن كعب قال ثم خرجت معه ليلة أخرى والناس يصلون بصلاة قارئهم فقال نعمة البدعة هذه والتي ينامون عنها أفضل من التي يقومون فيها يريد آخر الليل كان الناس يقومون أوله. So Malik informed us that Ibn Shihab informed us from Urwa ibn Zubayr, Abd al-Rahman ibn Abdin al-Qari, that he went out with Umar ibn Khattab one night in Ramadan and found the people separated in groups, divided up into groups. One man praying and a few people praying with him. So there's different jama'ats. So Umar said, by Allah, I believe that if I gathered these behind one reciter, it would be more fitting. Then having had made up his mind, he gathered them behind Ubay ibn Ka'b. So Ibn Rahaway, he says the best is to pray, as narrated by Tirmidhi, he says the best is to pray 41 rak'ahs of Taraweeh, because that's what Ubay ibn Ka'b did. So Ubay ibn Ka'b did 41. Sayyidina Umar was the one who put him there, and so we should follow that, 41 rak'ahs. I went out with him on one night, and while the people were in prayer with their reciting, he said, what an excellent innovation is this, i.e., this is a bid'ah hasana. It's a good thing that happened at not time the Prophet ﷺ. That during which, but he says, that during which they sleep is more meritorious than that which they stand. So it's better to pray, it's better to go to sleep at the beginning of the night and wake up and pray Taraweeh as tahajjud, not just merely Qiyam al-Layl. Qiyam al-Layl, anything you pray at night. Tahajjud, tahajjud is when you go to sleep first. The people were standing for the first of the night, but they should be standing for the second. قال محمد بهذا كله نأخذ لا بأس بالصلاة في شهر رمضان أن يصلي الناس تطوعا بإمام لأن المسلمين قد أجمعوا على ذلك ورأوه حسنا وقد روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال ما رآه المسلمون حسن فهو عند الله حسن وما رآه المسلمون قبيحا فهو عند الله قبيح. So Imam Muhammad says, we go according to all of this. There is no harm in praying in the month of Ramadan. The people praying voluntarily with an Imam, for the Muslims have already decided upon that and they agreed. So the ayat ijma'. For there has been narrated from the Prophet that he said, that which the believers regard as good with Allah is with Allah good, and that which the Muslims regard as ugly with Allah is ugly. I the concept of ijma', right? So ajma' an-nas ala dhalik, right? And so important thing to look at here, look at Raji' at-Tirmidhi, right? My pen's here. When you look at Tirmidhi, right, he's going to mention, no one's going to mention 8 rakats, right? At-Tirmidhi, Sunan at-Tirmidhi. So Tirmidhi is going to mention people praying 20 rakats in Mecca, 36 rakats, 40 rakats, 39 rakats. Nobody's praying 8 rakats. Right? Tirmidhi doesn't mention anybody praying that. There's another book, Mukhtasar Qiyam al-Layl. Right? Mukhtasar Qiyam al-Layl by Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Marwazi. Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Marwazi. Again, do you see evidence there of some of the Salaf praying 8? Yes. Majority? No. So you say, why are you praying 20 rakats? Majority of the Salaf pray 20 or more rakats. That's why I pray 20. You don't want to follow the majority of the Salaf? Okay, it's fine. I ask somebody, say, why do you pray 20 rakats? Because I'm Salafi. That's what you tell them. Because I'm Salafi. And I probably follow that because the Hanafi school is Salafi, and the Shafi school is Salafi, and the Maliki school is Salafi, and the Imam and the Muslim and the Hanbali school is Salafi, and they follow the majority of the Salaf. Majority of the Salaf prayed 20 rakats or more. Right? That's why the four madhahib say 20 rakats. It's very simple. Is there room to look at it another way? Yeah, possible. So Imam Shafi said, what we saw people doing is 20 rakats in Mecca, 36 rakats in Medina. That's what we used to see people do. Right?
Ustaz,
Yeah, so go ahead.
may I ask a question? But I thought Imam Shafi, I mean, he follows the Sahih Hadith.
Yeah, but he kind of looks at it almost like an ijma', Allahu Alam. Like this is what everybody does. Everybody's praying. So that's how that Allah, that's their own explanation, you can see. But he's just looking at it as ijma'. Like this is what everybody does. Like nobody's praying 8. He doesn't mention 8. Right. So the fact that this kind of basically ijma' that we do this, that's kind of enough, basically. Allah.
But that actually proves 20 even more true. Like that's the right way. Because if Imam Shafi follows the Sahih Hadith, but even he in this
Even he,
regard,
exactly. Even Imam Ahmad.
yeah,
So the whole problem is like there's two problems with Salafism. Number one, the idea that you're actually working something out, right? It's kind of like, for example, oh, I've proven Pythagoras' theorem. Like, really? Yeah, I did it. So how did you do it? And then I realized you used you proved it through a mistake. So your proof was actually wrong. Okay, you proved Pythagoras' theorem in the wrong way. Okay, so it's kind of silly. And then the idea that one is right and one is wrong. Okay, so you're not actually doing ijtihad when you do Salafism because you don't actually know what you're talking about. Like you don't know enough to actually do ijtihad. A. B, that I've now found out which one is right, but neither is right and wrong. It's just valid. Um, C, when you go against what everybody has said, right? And it's like there's a problem. So if you end up agreeing with one of the four madhahib, it's not too bad. Um, but it's kind of just a bit silly what happened. It's like, oh, I found the rajih. And it's like, you didn't find the rajih. You didn't find the strongest. You haven't done ijtihad yet. You haven't finished research yet at all. So you haven't really found the right answer. And there isn't an right answer. There are just different valid opinions. So it's kind of, but yeah. So, when you find Imam Shafi'i going against the Sahih Hadith, he narrates the Sahih Hadith and he goes against it. Imam Ahmad narrates the Sahih Hadith and goes against it. You know that the system is way more complex than you imagine. أخبرنا so it says the قنوت الفجر أخبرنا مالك عن نافع قال كان ابن عمر لا يقنط في الصبح. Right, so this is a good example of the same thing. Imam Malik is not a simple person. He quotes the opposite of his madhab. That's what he quotes. So Imam Malik says you should do the Qunut al-Fajr. He said Ibn Umar did not used to do the Qunut al-Fajr. But this is the same kind of thing. So maybe it proves that it's not wajib, right? So he's trying to say, some people are saying it's wajib, so it's not wajib, right? Okay. Um, so then he said, قال محمد وبهذا نأخذ هو قول أبي حنيفة it's not sunnah, right? It's only sunnah nazila. We take this is the word of Hanifa rahimahullah.
Sheikh, I have a question. Like every time Imam Muhammad says this is a verdict of Abu Hanifa, and we adhere to, why is he saying these two? Like, isn't it obvious that he will adhere to it anyway?
No, because he doesn't always adhere to it. He doesn't always adhere. He disagrees. He disagrees with Imam Hanifa sometimes, and he also disagrees with what Imam Malik is saying sometimes.
Okay, that will come later, I
Yeah.
guess.
So it is comes up a lot, but doesn't always agree. Okay. باب فضل صلاة الفجر في الجماعة وأمر ركعتي الفجر. أخبرنا مالك. Didn't we read this? We read something like it anyway. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن أبي بكر بن سليمان بن أبي حثمة أن عمر بن الخطاب فقد سليمان بن أبي حثمة في صلاة الصبح، وأن عمر غدا إلى السوق وكان منزل سليمان بين السوق والمسجد فمر. We did this hadith, no? Not sure. فمر عمر على أم سليمان الشفاء فقال لم أرى سليمان في الصبح. قالت بات يصلي فغلبته عيناه. قال عمر لأن أشهد صلاة الصبح أحب إلي من أن أقوم الليلة. So fiqh al-awlawiyat. Malik informed us that Ibn Shihab informed us from Abu Bakr ibn Sulaiman ibn Abi Hathma that Umar ibn Khattab missed Sulaiman ibn Abi Hathma in the Fajr prayer. So Umar went out early in the morning to the market, and the dwelling of Sulaiman was between the market and the masjid. So he passed by Sulaiman's mother, Ash-Shifa, and said, notice he's talking to a woman. It'll be haram for a man to talk to a woman. Sulaiman in there says, I said, where was Sulaiman? So I said, did not say Sulaiman. She said retired. He retired for the night, praying. Hmm? He retired for the night, praying, and sleep overcame him. Umar said that I should attend the Subh prayer is preferable to me than I should stand the prayer at night. Right, so it's very important to understand fiqh al-awlawiyat. What are priorities in the Sharia? Praying in the masjid, doing A, doing B. There's a thousand gazillion things you can do. Right, a million things you can do. And so all we have to do is try our best and prioritize what Allah has prioritized. You can't do everything, right? But you have to work out the priorities. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع أن ابن عمر أخبره عن حفصة زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنها أخبرته أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا سكت المؤذن من صلاة الصبح وبدأ الصبح ركع ركعتين خفيفتين قبل أن تقام الصلاة. Malik informed us that from Nafi' informed us that Ibn Umar informed him that Hafsa, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, told him that when the mu'adhin for the dawn prayer went silent, finished the adhan, and the dawn appeared, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would pray two brief rak'ahs before the prayer was held. قال محمد بهذا نأخذ الركعتان قبل صلاة الفجر يخففان. They're prayed very briefly. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع عن ابن عمر عن عبد الله بن عمر أنه رأى رجلا ركع ركعتي الفجر ثم اضطجع فقال ابن عمر ما شأنه؟ قال نافع قلت يفصل بين صلاته فقال ابن عمر وأي فصل أفضل من السلام. So Malik informed us from Nafi informed us that Ibn Umar saw a man praying the two rak'ahs before Fajr and then lie down, as in the Shafi school, right? Lie down on his side. Ibn Umar said, what's he doing? Nafi said, I said, he is making a separation between his prayers. Ibn Umar said, and what separation is better than this? So this is a very important thing because Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is very, very careful about following the Sunnah. And his wife, his sister, is the wife of the Prophet. So he's saying if the Prophet did it, the Prophet did it in his capacity as somebody who was tired. It's not a sunnah to lie on your side, okay? According to these scholars. According to the Shafi school, it is. So the Prophet did it, hey. And there's a hadith that's arguably sahih. The Prophet told us to do it, okay? And a particular dua that he said in it as well. So the Shafi say, no, it is sunnah. قال محمد وبقول ابن عمر نأخذ وهو قول أبو حنيفة, right? We held the same thing. It is not sunnah to do that. You do not lie down on your side. باب طول القراءة في الصلاة وما يستحب من التخفيف. Length of recitation in the prayer and what is encouraged of brevity. أخبرنا مالك حدثنا الزهري عن عبيد الله بن عبد الله عن ابن عباس عن أمه أم الفضل أنها سمعته يقرأ والمرسلات قالت يا بني لقد ذكرتني بقراءتك هذه السورة أنها لآخر ما سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في المغرب. Malik informed us that Zuhri informed us from Ubaidullah ibn Abdullah from Ibn Abbas from his mother Fadl when she heard the messenger that Ibn Umar heard Ibn Abbas recite wal mursalati urfa. She said, son or sonny, ya bunayya, right? Or my little boy, you have reminded me by your reciting the surah that it was indeed the last thing that I ever heard the Prophet recite in Maghrib. Was mursalat. The Shafis in general always say it's you can do whatever you want, and there's other things Prophet did, but generally sunnah to recite from duha on in Maghrib. So the short surahs, right? أخبرنا مالك حدثني الزهري عن محمد بن جبير بن مطعم عن أبيه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ بالطور في المغرب. So that's a longer ayat as well. Malik informed us, Zuhri informed us from Muhammad ibn Jubayr ibn Mut'im that he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم reciting الطور in Maghrib. قال محمد العامة على أن القراءة تخفف في صلاة المغرب يقرأ فيها بقصار مفصل, right? قصار, the short divided up surahs. ونرى أن هذا كان شيئا فترك أو لعله كان يقرأ بعض السورة ثم يركع. He wasn't reciting the whole thing. So Maghrib is supposed to be prayed briefly, not a long time. Imam Muhammad says the majority are of the opinion that the recitation should be made brief in the prayer of Maghrib, reciting there in short surahs of Al-Mufassal, right? Short surahs in the last section of the Quran. It is our opinion that this was the case and then it was abandoned. Or it could be, i.e. what the Prophet did here thought was the case that then it was abandoned. Or it could be that he'd recite part of it, right? أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا أبو الزناد عن الأعرج. So notice even from Imam Muhammad is saying, well, that's great, there's the hadith, but what do the majority of scholars say? Malik informed us from Abu Zinadi, from Al-A'raj, from Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah said, when one of you leads the prayer, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا أبو الزناد عن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا صلى أحدكم للناس فليخفف فإن فيهم السقيم والضعيف والكبير وإذا صلى لنفسه فليطول ما شاء. Malik informed us that Abu Zinad informed us from Al-A'raj from Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, when one of you leads the people in prayer, let him pray briefly, for the sick, the weak, the elderly are to be found among them. When he prays for him by himself, uh, by himself, or leads for himself, let him pray as long as he wills. قال محمد وبهذا نأخذ وهو قول أبي حنيفة رحمه الله. Muhammad said, we adhere to this. It is the verdict of Imam Hanifa. May Allah show mercy. Right? So generally speaking, the Imam should lead a small amount. It should be what people are not familiar with. Right? Some people, so what do they standardly do? It's the standard thing they do. Excuse me. We'll finish this here. باب صلاة المغرب. باب chapter concerning, quote, Salatul Maghribi, witru Salatul Nahar. Right? He said, the chapter saying, it's stating that the prayer of Maghrib being the witr of the daytime. أخبرنا مالك حدثنا عبد الله بن دينار عن ابن عمر قال صلاة المغرب وتر صلاة النهار. Malik informed us, saying that Abdullah ibn Dinar informed us from Ibn Umar, he said the prayer of Maghrib is the witr of the daytime prayer. Which is confusing because it's not a daytime. قال وحول هذا نأخذ وينبغي لمن جعل المغرب وتر صلاة النهار كما قال ابن عمر أن يكون وتر صلاة الليل مثلها ولا يفصل بينها وبتسليم كما لا يفصل في المغرب بتسليم. قول أبو حنيفة, right? It's the same thing. But I don't really quite make sense because it's both at night. But anyway, the point is they are both witr, and so therefore there's no break. That's the point, right? You don't separate them. So Imam Muhammad said we adhere to this. Whoever makes Maghrib the witr of daytime prayer, as Ibn Umar said, should make the witr of nighttime prayer like the like of it, not separating the two sets of prayers by saying Assalamu alaikum, just as he does not divide up Maghrib by saying Assalamu alaikum. This is the verdict of Imam Hanifa. May Allah have mercy. Inshallah, we'll stop there. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.